Welcome back, everybody. So, the music world lost somebody today, a man by the name of Steve Harwell. You might not know the name. I guarantee you know the face, and you know the band, Smash Mouth. This guy had left a stamp, him and the band, all the guys, they left a stamp on a certain era, a certain important time on pop culture in the world, and no doubt that stamp was huge and will forever be etched in music history. So a quick history of the band Smash Mouth. Now the band formed in 1994 in San Jose, California. It was in San Jose that a local radio station helped them get their big quote-unquote break, so to speak. So this radio station in San Jose would end up playing a song by Smash Mouth. It was a demo called Nervous in the Alley. When the station played this song, it got requested quite a bit after that. And this gave Smash Mouth their first taste of notoriety. So once this song was being played all over the radio and Smash Mouth was starting to get noticed, it was not hard at all for Interscope Records to swoop in and sign the band to their label. Once that happened, they got right in the studio to start working on their very first album, Fushu Mang. So the album was a success. It ended up going double platinum, and the first few singles off this album were awesome. There was a song called The Fonz, pretty cool song. Then they did a cover of Why Can't We Be Friends, and this song was featured on the 1998 awesome movie, had Kevin Bacon, Matt Dillon, Neve Campbell, and Denise Richards. The movie was called Wild Things, and I remember I wasn't allowed to watch that for obvious reasons, being 11 years old, but I did end up sneaking a peek of it. But anyway, awesome movie. They were featured on that, only more notoriety, but it was their very first single off the album that ended up being one of their biggest hits of all time. I'm talking about Walking on the Sun. So Walking on the Sun, real quick story from my side of things. So when I was a young kid, I lived out in the middle of nowhere, Wyoming, with my grandma. Now, all I had as a playground, which was actually pretty awesome now that I think about it, was a whole bunch of canyons for miles. I'd go down to these canyons and play for hours on end. Now, she owned a little restaurant. There was no towns anywhere near us going miles each direction. So it was a little restaurant, little hotel, which our house was attached to the hotel at the end of it. It was upstairs and downstairs, and then hotel rooms. So truckers would come by and they would stop and they could get a room. So I lived there for a few years with my grandma when I was young, and I loved it. Awesome memories. What I would do, because I wasn't actually into music yet, even though obviously you hear music as a child, but I'd go into the bar that was attached to my grandma's restaurant. She had a jukebox. I would throw a quarter in there, and there was a couple songs that I was always listening to. Another one, Bites the Dust by Queen. I always played that. More Than a Feeling by Boston. I always played that. I love the way they sounded, even though I didn't really know who the bands were at the time. The other one I always played was Smash Mouth, Walking on the Sun. So that song has very vivid memories for me and means a lot because of that reason. It takes me back to that moment. Now, I had a friend the other day who was talking about, he's a huge metal guy, but he was talking about how Sir Mix-a-Lot's Baby Got Back, when he hears it, it just takes him back and gives him goosebumps because it takes him back to a moment in time. Drop in the comment section what those songs are for you that take you back to a point in time that you just love to go back to whenever you got time to just close your eyes and reminisce. Smash Mouth would drop their second album, Astro Lounge, in 1999, and a lot of critics and music people would try to say that this was a change of direction musically for Smash Mouth. Now, if you ask me, I've heard that album. I've heard their first album. I've heard other stuff Smash Mouth done. All it sounded like to me was more Smash Mouth. So I never really got where that was coming from. So Astro Lounge would surpass Fushu Mang, their first album, in a huge way. This album ended up getting certified triple platinum. And their first two singles off the album, great songs. If there are Smash Mouth songs that I enjoy, both of these. First one, Then the Morning Comes, pretty cool song, featured in a lot of movies. I've heard it a lot over the years, but nowhere near compared to this other single that came off that album, All Star. Now the song All Star, I don't think I have to say much about it, but I will. The song was huge. It was a great success. It was featured on the very first Shrek film, and not only that, the music video for the song. It had characters from the movie Mystery Men, which was a Ben Stiller movie, very huge at the time, featured in the video. Classic. So listen, the song All Star has taken on a life of its own over the years. Huge song. It's in tons of movies. People play it in different events. Wherever they think that song pertains to what's going on, they're going to play it. I got my 3-year-old running around the house, the shape of an L on his forehead, singing the song because he knows the words to the song. Like I said, that song's amazing. It was featured on the Shrek soundtrack for the first movie, like I said. They also did a cover of the Monkey song I'm a Believer, which was also featured on that first Shrek movie. And you realize how Shrek is huge. Shrek is a global phenomenon in its own. And to think that you were a part of that says a lot. But All Star, even though it may have gotten burned out, it always comes back in every once in a while before it burns out again. Now, there have been numerous lineup changes to Smash Mouth over the years, but the main thing is they would never, after Astro Lounge, never reach that height of success again. But due to some great songs, All Star being one of them, they always had something to fall back on, even if their next album was not as big as the last. And nothing would ever be as big as their first two albums. That's a bottom line. But let's change course for a minute. Let's get into the reason we're here, and I want to talk a little bit about Steve Harwell, the lead singer of Smash Mouth. So it was announced either a day or two ago. Me personally, I know I saw this yesterday, that Steve Harwell was in hospice for final stage chronic liver failure. Now, that's pretty rough. And then it was also announced that his family, as well as himself, were notified by doctors that he had nowhere more than a week to live. Pretty sad. There was a point in 2013 where Steve was diagnosed with cardiomyopathy, which can cause heart failure. It can cause issues with your motor functions, your speech, and your memory. There was even situations where, because of this issue, that they canceled numerous Smash Mouth shows over the years. So 10 years ago, things started getting rough for this guy. So here's something we do know. All of Steve's health issues stem from his alcoholism, hard alcoholism over the years. That tells me one of two things. Either he got extremely unlucky, or he went very, very hard on the alcohol over the years. Because we do know people that have been bad on alcohol for 30, 40 years and end up getting to live a full life. And when I say full life, I mean 70s and beyond. Because what can you expect in this day and age? You don't know when you're going to go, and you don't know what to determine whether it's a fulfilled life or not. All we know is we want to live, and one day we're going to go. But, the alcoholism is a big key factor in a lot of people's lives. Drug addiction as well. It's really unfortunate when that ends up playing a big factor in determining how your body is going to react to the drugs or alcohol, and when it's eventually going to shut down, because there's nothing more it can do. It can't fight through the alcoholism or the drug addiction, and it can't live without it. So Steve Harwell, lead singer of the band Smash Mouth, was 56 years old when he passed away this morning at his house in Boise, Idaho. Surrounded by friends and family, people that cared about him, people that loved him. I got to imagine when you hear that news from a doctor or a medical professional that you only have a certain amount of time to live, and they actually give you a time frame, and it's not a long time frame, you got to come to terms with that and either accept it or not really quick. I can imagine if you don't accept that, the type of misery you're putting your mind through, and you're going to put the people around you also in a bad state of mind. But if you can't accept it, and you can enjoy the time you got left, I'm sure it puts you in a better place. And hopefully that's where he was. But again, this guy and the band Smash Mouth have left a mark on pop culture bigger than anything I can imagine, because especially, and I hate to mention one song, but Smash Mouth song All Star will forever be engraved in pop culture. From the moment it came out, which I remember that moment, to today and any time beyond, that song, people will know it. And that's the bottom line. So again, let's pray for the families and the loved ones of Steve Harwell, and we'll always remember what he's given us, what the band gave us. Forever in pop culture, he's engraved. Again, please like and subscribe to the video in memory of Steve Harwell. And again, thank you for watching. Until next time, take care. I'm out.